Good morning. This is Ron. It is Friday, August the 10th. Welcome to Story Time. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States of America, because I'm the only one that makes the presumption for the status quo. And speaking to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and I wanted to say if you're going to sue, don't sue Southern California Gas, sue the state. And it's a metaphor, or kind of a metaphor, for any type of a situation in which you have a regulated industry, okay, and something goes bad or something goes wrong. The tendency, and the left especially likes to do this, is they rush out and they blame the company or corporation or corporations involved in the disaster and encourage everybody to point fingers at them. But it isn't their fault. The case I'm actually talking about is Southern California Gas had a situation where one of their they had a gas storage facility underground and it leaked and created problems for a community. Porter Ranch, I believe, is the community that was. They were experiencing headaches and whatnot, and there's a foul smell, et cetera, et cetera. So because of that, there's a lot of people saying, down with Southern California Gas and very down on them, and of course looking to sue them, and did sue. And and there's a John and Ken show. John and Ken were, placing the blame squarely at the feet of Southern California Gas. Now, at first blush, that might seem logical. Okay, well, it's Southern California Gas's field, and this happened on technically Southern California Gas's property. But isn't logical at all because it's a regulated industry. There are regulators in place that are supposed to prevent this kind of thing from happening. That was the deal the politicians and the political parties made with us. They said, "Oh, you can't allow people like Southern California Gas to run around unregulated because they'll make all kinds of money by polluting the water and just making your lives miserable because they're rapacious human beings, they're monsters, and they don't care who they kill in the process of making a profit. So you've got to put us in charge, and we will regulate the industry and make sure that they don't kill you while you sleep." So Californians said, "Sure, okay, this sounds reasonable to us." It isn't reasonable, but whatever. They decided, the voters decided that's reasonable. Yes, go ahead and regulate Southern California Gas. Okay, so where are the damn regulators? What the hell are we paying for? And I've discussed this before on my show, that the conservatives, where one of their big failures is in holding the left accountable. The left likes power, and the kind of power the left likes is to operate with impunity. That means they assert authority without accepting responsibility for the consequences of their actions. When things go wrong, they just simply blithely shift the blame onto somebody else. And a lot of conservatives let it slide. And in a matter of, and as a matter of fact, a lot of conservatives take their cue from the left and attempt to do the very same thing, shift the blame onto somebody else. No, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. It's unrealistic and it's wrong. If you're going to exercise the authority to regulate, you have to accept the responsibility when things go wrong. It isn't Southern California Gas, therefore, that should be sued. They have no responsibility here. None. Zero. Because everything they do, they have to ask the permission of the government. Okay, they have to ask the permission of the regulators. They can't create new fields. They can't raise their prices. They can't lower their prices. They can't do anything without getting the approval of I think it's California Public Utilities Commission. Okay, so, and there's supposed to be people that are the regulators, that part of their job is to go out and make sure that what Southern California Gas is doing is not only legal and not going to unnecessarily raise people's rates, but it's also supposed to be safe. That's part of the regulation, is to regulate safety. And they failed here. Okay, it is the regulators, and we're paying taxes. We're not only paying for paying the gas company for gas, we're paying taxes to have them regulated. So we're paying twice. But the question is why? Why are we going to pay if the damn bureaucrats, if the damn politicians, if the damn political parties aren't going to do their fucking job? Why? And this is again what the Republicans needed to do and need to do, and conservatives need to do, is raise that alarm. Every time a regulated industry has a problem, has a some kind of scandalous situation, it is the Republicans and the conservatives that need to say, "Where are the regulators? Damn it, where the hell are the regulators? What the hell are we paying for?" Okay, because again, I'm a reasonable guy. If you've convinced me, or even if you didn't convince me, let's say I said I don't want it regulated. I'm a libertarian, and there should be no regulation on anything. But I was outvoted. Okay, I was outvoted. I'm an American. I understand the concept of voting and being outvoted, and the majority wins and all that good stuff. I understand that, and that's fine. But once you've gone ahead and done the regulation, regulate regulate. So find out what idiots didn't go out and inspect these premises to make sure that they were safe, because apparently that's what had happened. That this field had not been inspected for years. It had some kind of a weakness or a problem in it that nobody knew about for years, because the inspectors couldn't be bothered to do their damn job and inspect this and make sure that it's up to snuff. Okay, that's the fault of the regulators, not the fault of Southern California Gas. And that's what the conservatives have to get behind. Quit thinking in terms of power and start thinking in terms of right and wrong. If you want to have a good country, if you want to have a good community to live in, that's what you have to do each and every day. Concern yourself with right and wrong, and quit concerning yourself with power. It's tempting. It's so tempting to say, hey, look at the Democrats. They're getting away with murder. Hey, maybe if we start acting like the Democrats, we'll get away with murder too. No, all you're going to do is just make things worse for yourself, your families, your posterity. Stop it. Stop it. Quit being stupid. Don't be like John and Ken and be a moron and blame the wrong people. Regulators want to regulate. They're the ones that must take the blame. They are the ones that are wrong here. And this isn't the only time. Years ago, there was a sickness was being spread by strawberries. People would eat strawberries, and they would come down with the various intestinal problems, diarrhea, and all this other stuff. And I believe in a couple of cases, people died. And these were strawberries that are coming up from Mexico, and that they're supposed to be regulated. Somebody is supposed to inspect them and make sure that these strawberries are fit for human consumption. And over again, we've had instances. It might be spinach. It might be other types. So we had Chipotle. As far as I understand, restaurants are supposed to be, again, regulated. They get inspected, etc. And so where were the inspectors when Chipotle was poisoning its customers? Okay. Or what I should say is when the state of California was poisoning people. If the state of California assumes the authority to protect us from evil, rapacious capitalists, they must assume the responsibilities. They must actually do the damn job, and they must do it competently. They must actually make sure that we're safe, not talk about it, not picture, but make sure. And when they don't, it is up to us, the voters, particularly conservatives, to jam them up, to say, you assume the authority, therefore you're going to accept a commensurate level of responsibility. You poison people, you sicken them, you're going to make them whole. That's the way it works. Back in a minute. Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome back. So at the Rush Limbaugh app from rushlimbaugh.com and the Rush Limbaugh Show, drive-bys redefine winning and losing. Rush. So the new way of tabulating winners and losers continues. Greetings, my friends. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, Advanced Anti-Media Studies, and Anti-Leftist Studies. Happy to have you here. So, all 5 Donald Trump endorsed candidates won yesterday. That means the Democrats are going to take the House. That means Democrats are going to take the House in November. It's even more of a lock now than it was before the Democrats all lost these elections yesterday. And that's from no less than F. Chuck Todd. These results yesterday show that the Democrats are on their way to a big sweep, a gigantic blue wave in November. They're trying to say that Trump's endorsement didn't help any of these candidates. They're trying to say that the massive Democrat turnout in these districts that were predominantly dominated by Republicans shows that enthusiasm is all on the Democrat side. And the fact that these races were relatively close in special elections and primary elections in the vacation month of August means that when things return to normal in the fall, school starts and family life cycles resume their normalcy, that once we get to November, the Democrats are just going to sweep everything. Isn't it amazing how when the Democrats lose in these special elections, 8 out of 9, by the way, for Trump, 8 out of 9 Trump-endorsed candidates in special or primary elections have emerged victorious. And yet, in practically every one of them, the Democrats are reported to have won. At least if not a real victory, a moral victory. So that's the thing. One of the things that drives me crazy about Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, at all is that they throw victory away. They snatch victory, or not victory, they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And the way they do it is exactly what Rush Limbaugh is doing here. There was 5 victories last night for, not last night, but I mean the other day, because this one, let me see what the date was on this, August 8th. So it would have been August 7th, Tuesday, from Tuesday, August 7th. Now, so there's 5 victories. Okay, and this reminds me of when Trump won the presidential election. And instead of trumpeting that victory, instead of celebrating, taking the day off and just celebrating, spent 3 hours on the Rush Limbaugh Show doing nothing but crowing about that victory. Instead, what he did is he became complicit with the Democrats, and he psychologically dampened the victory. He made it sound on his show almost as though it was a loss. When he does what he's doing right now, when there's a victory, but instead of coming out and saying, hooray, everybody, 5 Donald Trump backed candidates won yesterday, and spend some time celebrating that fact. Happy days are here again. Put on some music. Chuckle, laugh, have a good time, tell some jokes. Right? How many Democrats it take to screw in a light bulb? Whatever. Instead of doing that, he goes out and finds out, well, how did the Democrats respond to that? Okay, and the Democrats are I'm going to just go out and say they're masters of psychology, at least as far as the Republicans and the conservatives are concerned, because the Republicans and the conservatives fall for it every damn time. You think about the psychology of winning and losing. The way to make your victory complete is to celebrate. And the left knows that. They know that. So they know that if they can discourage and, as a matter of fact, get the right to be obsessed with or concerned with, worried about other things, and foregoing a celebration, that the right is going to not have a complete victory. This is why, if you ask yourself all the time, why does it seem like the Democrats are winning all the time? No matter what, the Democrats are winning. This is why, because idiots like Rush Limbaugh throw victory away. He won. Donald Trump won. The 5 candidates won. Celebrate. Celebrate. For one day, who cares? For one day or maybe 1 hour. For 5 minutes, maybe. Excuse me. Who cares what the left says? You want to obsess about the left all the time, make your whole show about the left. The left, what is the left doing and why are they doing it? Spend 5 minutes celebrating. Touchdown. Touchdown. Light a cigar. Celebrate. That's why we psychologically, people on the right, have a tendency to think that the left wins all the time. They don't. The left rarely wins. It only seems like they win because they're able to snooker, psychologically fool people like Rush Limbaugh into snatching a defeat out of the jaws of victory. Back in a minute. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now back to Ayn Rand's, the Ayn Rand lexicon. And the entry here is atheism. Every argument for God and every attribute ascribed to him rests on a false metaphysical premise. None can survive for a moment on a correct metaphysics. Existence exists and only existence exists. Existence is a primary. It is uncreated, indestructible, eternal. So if you are to postulate something beyond existence, some supernatural realm, you must do it by openly denying reason, dispensing with definitions, proofs, arguments, and saying flatly, to hell with argument, I have faith. That, of course, is a willful rejection of reason. Objectivism advocates reason as man's sole means of knowledge, and therefore, for the reasons I've already given, it is atheist. It denies any supernatural dimension presented as a contradiction of nature, of existence. This applies not only to God, but also to every variant of the supernatural ever advocated or to be advocated. In other words, we accept reality, and that's all. So much for that. That's one of the areas of Ayn Rand's so-called philosophy that I have ignored, basically. I'm a Christian, and I remain a Christian despite Ayn Rand's encouragements to the contrary. So, when I come back, we're going to finish up with a couple of jokes from the New York City Cab Driver's Joke Book. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the New York City Cab Driver's Joke Book by Jim Peach. A guy walks into a drugstore and goes up to the pharmacist. Last Friday, I ordered 12 dozen rubbers, and when I got home, I found out I only got 11 dozen. Gee, says the pharmacist, I hope I didn't spoil your weekend. A woman has always been flat-chested, and she decides she really wants to find out what it's like to have big breasts. She goes to a doctor, and he tells her the only remedy for this is to go to a witch doctor and ask him to marry you. If he says no, your bust line will grow. So, figuring that she has nothing to lose, she sets out to find a witch doctor. She finds a really horrendous-looking savage, but she goes up to him and says, "Witch doctor, will you marry me?" He takes one look at her and says, "No." Suddenly, she grows 2 inches. Now she's at 34. She goes home, gets some new bras, and is very proud of her new figure. She thinks that was so easy. Why don't I see what it's like to be a 36? So the woman goes back to the next week to the witch doctor and says to him, "Witch doctor, will you marry me?" He looks at her and says, "I told you no." She's now 36, goes home, buys new bras, and starts getting a lot of attention. She loves her new look and starts to think, I wonder what it would like to be a 38. She has spent her whole life in a training bra, so she decides she's ready to make up for lost time. She goes back to the witch doctor and says, "Witch doctor, will you marry me?" The witch doctor shouts at her, "No, no, 1,000 times no." After I asked a man one night if he heard any good jokes lately, he said, "Yeah, here's one I told to my boss the other night at a cocktail party." A very dapper, well-dressed gentleman walks into a midtown branch of the Chase Manhattan Bank one day and asks for a loan of $10,000 for 2 weeks. The bank officer says to him, "Yes, sir, I think we can arrange something. I'll just need some identification and credit references." "I'm sorry," says the very distinguished-looking man, "but I don't have either of those." Well, then I'm afraid we can't help you. In that case, says the man, I would like to speak to your boss. He talks to the branch manager, who also tells him the loan would be impossible. The man then demands to see someone higher up. This goes on and on. The problem keeps getting kicked upstairs until finally the man is ushered in to see David Rockefeller. Yes, sir, says Mr. Rockefeller. What can I do for you? I need a loan of $10,000 for 2 weeks, says the man. And do you have identification and credit references? Asked Mr. Rockefeller. No, I'm afraid I don't, says the man. However, I am willing to put up my Rolls Royce as collateral. With that, he produces the keys to the car and drops them on the desk. It's parked right out front. Well, says Mr. Rockefeller, $150,000 as collateral for $150,000 car as collateral for a 2-week $10,000 loan is good enough for me. The two men shake hands, and the man is issued the check. 1 week later, he returns. He goes up to the officer he spoke with and says, I would now like to repay my loan. The officer, upon seeing the man, snaps to attention. Sir, he says, I have strict instructions that when you come in, I should send you immediately to see Mr. Rockefeller. The man is once again ushered in to see David Rockefeller. He sits down and pays back the loan with $200 interest. Once they've concluded their business, Mr. Rockefeller says to him, Sir, from the license plate on your car, I was able to run a check on you. You are one of the 10 wealthiest men in the world. Why in the world would you want to leave your car here in exchange for a $10,000 loan? Where else, says the man, could I find such a great parking space so cheap? The man, upon finishing this joke, told me that when his boss heard it, his boss said to him, Your timing is way off. You should have told me that joke 2 days ago. Yesterday I had lunch with David Rockefeller, and he would have loved it. So, David, if it hasn't gotten back to you yet, I hope you're reading this now. And on that note, we come to the conclusion of another episode of Story Time. I thank you very much for listening, and until next time, have a great day.